My name is Aubrey Grant. I'm 29 years old, and 3 months ago, I was sitting in a sterile conference room, watching my dreams get shredded like paper. Aubrey, your sound just isn't what we're looking for anymore. Marcus Chen, A&R director at Stellar Records, said without even looking up from his tablet. The market has shifted. We need artists who can connect with Gen Z, who understand social media, who have that spark. He finally met my eyes. His expression cold and dismissive. Frankly, you're unmarketable. I'd been with Stellar Records for 3 years, pouring my heart into every song, every performance, every late-night studio session. I'd written hits for other artists on their roster, watched them climb charts with my melodies, my lyrics, my soul. But apparently, none of that mattered anymore. The label that had promised to make me a star was now showing me the door, claiming I lacked the modern appeal they needed. As I walked out of that building, clutching my terminated contract, I felt something crack inside me, not just my heart, but something deeper. What Marcus and the entire Stellar Records executive team didn't know was that their unmarketable songwriter came from money, real money. My grandmother, Eleanor Grant, had been a silent partner in the music industry for decades, owning significant shares in 3 major distribution companies and 2 of the largest streaming platforms. She'd built her fortune quietly, strategically, never wanting her family name splashed across business headlines. I'd grown up watching her work from the shadows, learning that true power often came from places people never thought to look. But I'd never wanted to use her connections or her money. I'd signed with Stellar Records under my own merit, never mentioning my family's wealth or influence. I wanted to succeed because of my talent, not my trust fund. My grandmother had respected that choice, even as she watched me struggle through the industry's politics and prejudices. "When you're ready, darling," she'd always said, "the resources will be here." I thought I'd never need them. I thought my music would be enough. I was wrong. The months following my termination were brutal. I watched from the sidelines as Stellar Records promoted their newest golden girl, Cassie Rivers, a 22-year-old blonde with a decent voice and a massive social media following. Marcus had signed her just weeks after dropping me, and the comparison was impossible to ignore. Cassie was everything I apparently wasn't: young, conventionally beautiful, willing to wear whatever outfit would get clicks, say whatever would trend. Her debut single, ironically, was built on a melody I'd written during my time at Stellar. I spent those months writing, recording demos in my home studio, and watching the industry I'd loved slowly reveal its true face. Former colleagues stopped returning my calls. Musicians I'd collaborated with suddenly became too busy to work with someone who was between labels. The whispers started that I was difficult to work with, that I'd been dropped for attitude problems, that maybe I just didn't have what it took after all. Each rumor was a knife twist. Each dismissal, another reason to prove them all wrong. My breaking point came during a chance encounter at a coffee shop in West Hollywood. I was sitting in the corner, laptop open, working on new material when I overheard Marcus Chen at the next table talking loudly into his phone. "That Aubrey Grant situation? Best decision we ever made. Dead weight. Her songs were too mature, too complex. Cassie Rivers is already outselling anything Aubrey ever did with us. Sometimes you have to cut the fat, you know?" He laughed, completely unaware I was 3 feet away, listening to him dissect my career like it was a failed business venture. That night, I called my grandmother for the first time since my termination. "Eleanor," I said, using the name I'd called her since childhood, "I think I'm ready to stop playing fair." Her laugh was rich and knowing. "I wondered when you'd call, darling. I've been watching that dreadful label of yours, and I have some ideas. Are you prepared to show them what they actually let slip through their fingers?" Within hours, she'd connected me with the best entertainment lawyer in Los Angeles and introduced me to David Park, CEO of Phoenix Entertainment, a boutique label known for artist-friendly contracts and innovative marketing. The plan we crafted was beautiful in its simplicity. I would release my music independently through Phoenix, but with the full backing of my grandmother's distribution network and streaming platform partnerships. We wouldn't announce the connection immediately. We'd let the music speak first. I spent 6 weeks perfecting my debut independent single, Underestimated, a song that channeled every ounce of frustration, betrayal, and determination I'd felt over the past months. The lyrics were sharp, personal, and undeniably catchy. The production was pristine, expensive, and radio-ready. It was everything Stellar Records had claimed I couldn't create. We released Underestimated on a Tuesday morning with minimal fanfare, just a simple social media post and strategic playlist placements that my grandmother's connections had secured. Within hours, something magical happened. The song began climbing streaming charts organically, shared by listeners who connected with its message of resilience and self-worth. Music bloggers picked it up, radio DJs started requesting it, and within a week, it had garnered over 2 million streams. The industry took notice, but they had no idea who was behind the sudden success of this unknown independent artist. The real vindication came 2 weeks later when Underestimated debuted at number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100, directly above Cassie Rivers' latest single, which had stalled at number 15 despite Stellar Records' massive promotional push. The irony was delicious. Marcus Chen, who had called me unmarketable, was now watching his golden girl get outsold by the woman he'd discarded. But this was just the beginning. I had months of material ready. An entire album's worth of songs that showcased exactly why Stellar Records had made the biggest mistake of their corporate lives. The music industry is small, and news travels fast. Within days of my chart debut, I started receiving calls from the same people who had ghosted me after my termination. Suddenly, everyone wanted to work with the mysterious new artist who was taking the industry by storm. Interview requests poured in, collaboration offers flooded my inbox, and record labels, including, hilariously, Stellar Records, began reaching out through intermediaries, trying to discover who I was and how they could sign me. I ignored them all, focusing instead on building my independent success story. The moment I'd been waiting for came 6 weeks after Underestimated's release at the annual Music Industry Awards Gala. It was an event I'd attended for years as a Stellar Records artist, always seated at the back tables, always watching more successful artists claim the spotlight. This year, I was nominated for Best Independent Artist, and Phoenix Entertainment had secured me a prime table near the stage. I wore a custom black gown that cost more than most artists. Entire wardrobe budgets, my grandmother's vintage diamonds catching the light as I walked the red carpet. Marcus Chen spotted me during the cocktail hour, his face cycling through confusion, recognition, and something approaching panic. He approached with his usual false charm, completely unaware of the bomb I was about to drop. "Aubrey, congratulations on your success. I have to admit, I'm surprised to see you here. That song of yours, Underestimated, it's quite good. Very mature. Exactly the kind of complex songwriting that, well, we always appreciated about your work." His smile was practiced, calculating, already trying to rebuild bridges he burned just months earlier. "Thank you, Marcus," I replied, matching his fake warmth with interest of my own. "I'm glad you think it's mature. That's interesting feedback, considering you dropped me for being too complex for modern audiences." I watched his expression shift as he realized I remembered every word of his dismissal. "Tell me, how is Cassie Rivers doing? I heard her latest single isn't performing quite as expected." The question was innocent enough, but we both knew I was twisting the knife. Cassie's song had dropped to number 37 while mine continued climbing. Before Marcus could respond, the evening's host began announcing the nominees for Best Independent Artist. As my name echoed through the ballroom, I watched recognition dawn on faces throughout the industry crowd. The mysterious new artist they'd been trying to identify was sitting right there, the woman Stellar Records had deemed unmarketable just months earlier. The cameras found me at my table, and I smiled graciously. Every inch the confident artist I'd always been underneath their doubts and dismissals. When they announced my name as the winner, the applause felt like vindication wrapped in validation. Walking to that stage felt like floating. The speech I gave was brief but pointed. This award belongs to every artist who's been told they're not enough, not young enough, not marketable enough, not whatever enough. Sometimes being underestimated is the greatest gift you can receive, because it gives you the freedom to prove everyone wrong on your own terms. I didn't mention Stellar Records by name. I didn't need to. Everyone in that room understood exactly who I was talking about, and the message was crystal clear. They had made a catastrophic error in judgment. The aftermath was swift and brutal for Stellar Records' reputation. Industry publications picked up the story of how they dropped their now award-winning former artist, painting a picture of a label that couldn't recognize talent when it was sitting in their conference rooms. Marcus Chen became the face of executive incompetence. His decision to release me held up as a cautionary tale about industry short-sightedness. Cassie Rivers, unfortunately, became collateral damage as attention focused on how Stellar had chosen her over me, leading to uncomfortable questions about their artist selection priorities and treatment of more mature women in music. Within a month of my award win, I revealed my family connections during an interview with Rolling Stone. The article, titled "The Heiress Who Conquered Music on Her Own Terms," detailed my grandmother's extensive industry holdings and my decision to initially succeed without her help. The revelation added another layer to my story. I hadn't just proven Stellar Records wrong about my marketability. I'd done it while sitting on resources that could have made their entire label irrelevant. The power dynamic shifted completely. I was no longer the discarded artist seeking validation. I was the industry insider who had chosen to play by their rules and still beaten them at their own game. My grandmother, delighted by the public vindication, decided to make our partnership official. She purchased a significant stake in Phoenix Entertainment, transforming my boutique label into a major industry player overnight. Suddenly, the artists who had distanced themselves after my stellar termination were calling again, but this time seeking my help rather than offering theirs. I was selective about who I chose to work with. Remembering clearly who had stood by me during my lowest moment and who had abandoned me when I needed support most. The most satisfying moment came 6 months later when Stellar Records, facing their worst financial quarter in a decade and multiple artist defections, reached out through intermediaries to discuss a partnership opportunity. They wanted to license my music for their compilation albums and streaming playlists, essentially asking to profit from the very artist they'd claimed was unmarketable. My response, delivered through my attorney, was professional but definitive. Ms. Grant appreciates the interest but feels that Stellar Records' previous assessment of her marketability makes any future collaboration incompatible with their brand vision. Marcus Chen was quietly reassigned within Stellar Records, moving from A&R director to a lesser role in their publishing division. Cassie Rivers, despite her initial success, struggled to maintain relevance as the industry attention shifted to more substantial artists. She wasn't a bad person, just young and caught in the crossfire of executive decisions that prioritized image over artistry. I bore her no ill will, but her career trajectory served as an unintended reminder of what happens when labels choose flash over substance, youth over experience, and marketing trends over genuine talent. Today, my independent label, now called Grant Records in honor of my grandmother's legacy, represents some of the most innovative artists in the industry. We've created a space where maturity is valued, where complex songwriting is celebrated, and where artists aren't discarded for failing to fit into narrow demographic boxes. My second album debuted at #1, outselling every release from Stellar Records that quarter. The girl they called Unmarketable had become unmarketably successful, proving that sometimes the best revenge is simply being undeniably, unavoidably, unmistakably right. The industry learned a valuable lesson through my story, though I suspect some executives are still too proud to admit it. Talent doesn't have an expiration date. Artistry can't be reduced to demographic data, and underestimating someone often says more about your limitations than theirs. I'm still writing, still recording, and still proving that the most dangerous position you can put someone in is having nothing left to lose. Because sometimes, when you think you've lost everything, you discover you've actually found the freedom to become everything you were meant to be.